2 in the morning in the Pilbara, in the iron country of Western Australia. A Caterpillar 797F sits dark at the edge of the pit, parked 3 days now, waiting on a final drive component the dealer cannot promise before the weekend. The fleet manager runs the number in his head. A truck this size moves close to $200,000 in ore across a single day. 3 days dark is $600,000 that did not move. He climbs down, sets his radio on the step, and stares at the empty haul road. What he doesn't say out loud is the part he already knows. The replacement order his company signed last year was not for another Caterpillar. What he has not been told, standing on that step, is why the trucks coming to take this one's place were built by a European company that Caterpillar had outsold for decades. For 40 years, the largest mining operations in the earth ran on Caterpillar iron. The 797 entered service in 1998. The 797F arrived in 2009, a 400-ton hauler on a mechanical drive system, and it became the default truck in the deepest pits on 3 continents. The moat was never only the machine, it was the dealer network, the largest in heavy industry, with parts depots placed so a downed truck in a remote pit, which pit could be running again before the shift changed. Caterpillar trained the mechanics. They financed the fleets and even held the service data on every component. A mine did not buy a truck. It bought into a system that made leaving almost unthinkable. But infrastructure built around one product is only as strong as that product's answer to the next problem. In 2022, the problem arrived, and the mechanical drive system had no answer for it. The challenger was the Liebherr T264. Liebherr is a family-held manufacturer, German and Swiss, and the difference in its truck lived in the drivetrain. The Caterpillar flagship turned its wheels through a mechanical transmission, gears and drive shafts carrying engine power to the axle. The Liebherr turned its wheels with electric motors, the diesel engine running a generator, the generator feeding the wheels. But electric drive could do something mechanical drive could not. It could take power from anywhere, from an overhead trolley line strung above the ramp, from regenerative braking on the way down, from a battery. Therefore, when Fortescue set a target to strip diesel out of its Pilbara mines entirely, and went looking for an ultra-class truck that could become battery electric and autonomous, the Caterpillar flagship did not qualify. The Liebherr did. The scene was Mine Expo, Las Vegas, the 24th of September, 2024. On the floor stood a 416-ton machine in Fortescue green, the autonomous battery electric T264, built by Liebherr in Newport News, Virginia. Andrew Forrest, Fortescue's chairman, stood beside Willie Liebherr as the contract was signed. The figure was $2.8 billion, 475 machines, about 360 of them haul trucks, enough to replace 2/3 of Fortescue's mining fleet. Somewhere in that hall stood a Caterpillar dealer team, watching the single largest equipment order in Liebherr's 75-year history close on trucks that should have been theirs. One of them ran the numbers on what 2/3 of a fleet meant in parts revenue across 20 years and stopped halfway. No one from Caterpillar spoke from that stage. Reconstructed from the logic of the moment, the line would be 3 words. That fleet was ours. But one contract does not move a market. What moved the market was what happened in the 2 years after that first switch. Here is the mechanism that explains the choice and why Caterpillar will keep making it. Hardware sales are lumpy. A mine reorders ultra-class trucks once a decade, in a burst, and that burst shows up as a spike on a revenue chart before vanishing. Predictable, recurring, high-margin income is what lifts a stock multiple. Caterpillar set a public target to grow services revenue to $28 billion by 2026, up from $14 billion in 2016. By 2024, that figure reached $24 billion, nearly 40% of the company's machinery revenue. Most of it aftermarket parts moving through the dealer network. A mechanical drive truck carries gearboxes, drive shafts, and transmissions that wear and get serviced by that dealer. An electric drive truck moves much of its service value into motors and software. The executive who defended mechanical drive was not trying to lose the Pilbara. He was trying to hit 28 billion. Those are not the same goal. The metric won. The haul road lost. If this video taught you something you did not yet know, please consider subscribing. This channel works through one machine class and one site at a time, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Now let's get back to it. The Fortescue order was not the end of it. The first agreement, in 2022, covered 120 trucks. By 2024, it had tripled to 360, because Fortescue's fleet had burned roughly 450 million liters of diesel in a single year. And every liter was now a cost the company had promised shareholders it would erase. Therefore, Liebherr, holding a confirmed buyer for hundreds of trucks, could fund the charging systems, the autonomy, the entire ecosystem wrapped around the machine. But scale invites scale. Therefore, Fortescue brought in a second supplier, the Chinese maker XCMG, splitting its future electric truck fleet between two companies, neither of them Caterpillar. But the trucks were only the visible loss. The deeper loss was the service contract beneath them, the parts and maintenance revenue that Liebherr's Australian arm immediately began staffing up to capture. Therefore, the moat that once made leaving unthinkable, the dealer network, was now being rebuilt around a rival's iron on Caterpillar's own ground. But none of this was bad luck, and none of it blew in from outside. The opening had been cut years earlier, deliberately, for reasons that looked correct at the time. The decision was the drivetrain itself. Caterpillar was the only manufacturer that built mechanical drive trucks above 180 tons, and it was proud of that fact. In 2009, after testing an electric drive version of its workhorse truck, Caterpillar suspended the program. The electric unit was heavier and moved less material per ton, so by the only measure that counted then, mechanical drive won. Caterpillar kept its flagship mechanical and let its rivals accumulate the electric drive experience. For 20 years, that looked like discipline. But electric drive was the foundation that battery power, trolley assist, and autonomy would all be built upon. When mines began demanding zero-emission ultra-class trucks, that foundation was the entry ticket. Caterpillar had spent 2 decades perfecting the one architecture that could not hold a battery. It did eventually field electric drive trucks, and even trolley systems at mines like ATIC in Sweden. But it arrived as a follower, in a class it had once defined alone. None of this empties the pits tomorrow. Thousands of Caterpillar trucks are still hauling, and a mine does not turn a fleet over in a year. The installed base will run for another decade. But the next wave of orders, the fleets that will define the 2030s, is being decided now, and at the top of the class, it is being decided against mechanical drive. The 797F was the best answer to a question the mining industry had stopped asking. What it leaves unanswered is the dealer network, the real moat, the thing that was never about trucks at all. A Liebherr or a Komatsu can sell a mine a better machine. Whether either can rebuild 40 years of parts depots and trained mechanics across the Pilbara is a different question, and it is the one that decides whether this is a dent or the first hour of the end. That network is the next machine on the bench. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.